Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor Administrative Office and each elementary, middle, and secondary school website in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Kennedy. Here. Mr. Donlin.
Here.
Mr. Dino.
Here.
Mr. Heffernan.
Here.
Mr. Little.
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco. Here. Mrs. Wright. Here. Mr. McCollum. Here. Mrs. Williams.
Here. I need a resolution to go into executive session for matters of negotiations, personnel, and contracts.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the Augustine Minor Administrative Offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school website in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti? Here. Mr. Donlin?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. Heffernan?
Here.
Mr. Little?
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco? Here. Mrs. Wright? Here. Mr. Capone?
Here.
Mrs. Stevens?
Here. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start our meeting off with the video from our high school speakers.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Frigno and I'm the Student Council President at Middletown High School South. Today I will be talking to you guys about a few current events that are currently happening in our school. For starters, 9th grader Sage Kreinler won the October Photography Media Center Challenge, showcasing the beauty of Middletown. Next, South will be hosting a homecoming bonfire on November 23rd from 5 to 8 p.m. South showed support for our veterans. Students and faculty raised $5,461 for the Navy SEALs Fund. As for our football team, they won the conference championship, which is the Shore Conference Colonial Division. Last Friday, South won the NJSIAA North Jersey Section 2 semifinal game against Sayreville. That win put the South Eagles in the state sectional final versus Irvington. High School South girls cross country are undefeated A North champs, as well as Central Jersey Group 4 state champs. Cross country runners ranked NJ number 7, Lexi Dean, Lucy Afanasevich, Rosie Shea, Lauren Hudson, Gwen Afanasevich, Emma Buthorn, Skylar O'Keefe, Samantha Grain, and Julia Flynn. We would also like to congratulate our student athletes who have signed or committed to play their sport in college. Megan Carragher has committed to Fairfield University to play girls soccer. Jillian Deans has committed to Fairfield to play softball. Marcella Figueroa has committed to swim at Bryant University. Kenan Hott is committed to play soccer at Duke University. Carly Iannone will be playing softball at West Virginia Wesleyan College. Joseph Stanzione will be playing baseball at Gardner-Webb University. Isabella Orlando will be playing women's basketball at Montclair State. Riley Canini will be playing softball at Ursinus College. Evan Wood will be playing baseball at Alvernia University. And lastly, Benjamin Casoilo will be playing baseball at Drew University. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hello everyone, I'm Sophie Haber-Brock and here are the highlights for November. The North TV Film Club released North News 2. It's available on the Middletown North website and on the TV Film Productions YouTube page. We also won Honorable Mention and Audience Choice at the Film One 24-Hour Film Festival in Atlantic Highlands. The North Drama Club put on the fall play A Midsummer's Night Dream on November 18th, 19th, and 20th. On November 12th, we held our student government elections. Matthew Klimovich and Quinn Arthur were elected student body president and vice president. The homecoming pep rally, run by the civic leaders, will be held on Wednesday the 23rd at the end of the school day. The homecoming bonfire and outdoor dance will be on November 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. There will be a bonfire, VIP tent for dancing with a DJ, and food available for purchase with food trucks and an ice cream truck. Tours of the Athletic Hall of Fame will be available. Alumni are welcome. The civic leaders are holding the Tackle Hunger food drive, collecting non-perishable items before and during the Thanksgiving game. Spirit Week will be held in anticipation for the Thanksgiving game. Tuesday will be Dress in Orange to welcome back Dr. Cartier. The North vs. South Thanksgiving game will be on November 25th. Kickoff is at 9:35 a.m. Tickets will be sold on Monday the 22nd and Tuesday the 23rd during and after school. The ticket booth will open at 9 a.m. on game day. Tickets are $2 for students and $4 for adults. That's it for this month. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open for public comment on agenda items only. No one at the mic, close the public portion. Everybody's noticed the minutes are on the agenda for number 9. We're tabling them because they did not get onto the portal for everybody to see. The minutes, approval of the minutes. Yeah, they'll be on the December meeting. Okay, under the report of the president, we need a motion to approve the miracles from Mrs. Walker.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And at this time, I'd like to take a moment. I think a lot of people don't realize how much time our board members put into their jobs, and of course, they don't get paid. And the amount of years that build up. Tonight, I'd like to honor Mr. Donlin for his 10 years of service from New Jersey School Boards. And we have a pin for you that they gave me at the meeting the other day. Time goes by very fast, 10 years. Okay, report of the business administrator. I need a motion for number 1 through 4.
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Superintendent update?
I just wanted to take a moment to wish our community a very happy Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm talking about our parents that support our students, our students, our dedicated teachers and dedicated board members. We're very grateful for your support and all your hard work on behalf of our students. So happy Thanksgiving.
I need a motion for number 2 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposing number 2. Abstentions? Under student services, I need a motion for number 1 through 5. So moved.
Sorry.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Under policy, we need a motion for second readings, number 3, and number 3 is second, the rest are first. Oh, 1, the abolishment of number 1, okay. And then we don't need a motion for the first readings, but we need one for number 3.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Under curriculum, I need a motion for number 1. Approval of staff to attend conferences and workshops. So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Under finance, number 1, approval of the American Rescue Plan spending. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second,
Second.
discussion. Go ahead. Or you go first. I'm just gonna say that I'm all for the funds, but I will vote no on the position of the health coordinator.
Can that be separated out?
Yes, Ken.
Well, I just want to clarify that that's not included in this particular motion.
But it was included in our last week's agenda under that.
It's on the personnel agenda.
It's on the
You
personnel.
can
agenda, so
approve, no,
it's
I
separate.
would say no on the personnel.
All right,
agenda.
okay, separate.
But last time,
We separated.
yeah, when we had the meeting last week, it was right at the bottom line that we had.
Don't we clarify what the NJTSS mental?
Yeah, what is that?
That's in personnel.
What is the NJTSS that was put on there this week and it wasn't on last week?
Mental health should have been, 'cause that's one of the
Yeah.
grants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on the original grid. Yeah, it was on the grid when we went over it.
But
But
doesn't
that,
that,
this doesn't give the specifics, this you're approving the grant, no, this is not.
Right, that
The
was the
specifics
question.
come when you have to approve ESS, or when you have to approve the school health coordinator, which is on the
The
agenda.
mental health, to my recollection, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but the meeting before that is the restorative practices professional
Right,
development
yes,
that
yeah,
we
yeah.
administer for practice.
It was on the
original grade?
It's one of
That's
the
a
separate.
sub-grant.
So what was your purpose of taking the health coordinator off of here, because it's on here in the
No, no.
workshop?
These are all just the grants, these are just the grants themselves, it's the main, the 763 is the ESSER 3 grant, and then 4 million is the ESSER 3 grant, and the other 4 are those sub-grants. It's not, this isn't saying what's in them, it's just saying you're approving. You were thinking about when we went over what we're gonna put in them.
Yeah, because it was on here, yeah.
It was on the other chart,
Yeah.
so what are we
Right,
actually?
the application is the breakout.
but the board has to approve the actual, acceptance of the funds.
Well, it says approved submission,
Yeah, submit.
which is gonna be a breakout.
Yes, of what we went over. But
Right.
if the board doesn't approve the coordinator, that will not be included in the grant.
Okay,
If you don't approve the job description.
Yeah, if you don't, yeah.
all right, so we'll do that.
But if you, can't we just not approve 45?
No,
No,
That's
you
not-
don't get it.
this is just a dollar amounts in the grant that we're applying for. This is just us saying that we're applying for these dollar amounts that are being provided by the DOE. It's not saying that what we're applying for under each, it's just you approving us and applying for the grant to apply for these dollar amounts.
Well, it says here, recommend approved submission of the right to go to American Rescue Plan, ESSER grant proposed program plan, and accept funds as approved.
Right,
So
that
we're-
is
we're-
already done.
The grant's due on Wednesday, so we're applying for that. So then when DOE reviews the grant, then they'll award the funds. The school health coordinator, if it had been approved, to my knowledge, unless anything changed to the last meeting, was not gonna come out of the mental health support grant. It wouldn't have met that criteria.
No, it was on a separate line all by itself. Under
Because
there.
we wanted to.
It was under the
make it
last grid box for the
Yes,
Yes.
before
Yep.
9:40.
Right, whereas the mental health support staffing grant was for the after-school restorative practices, the
Right.
counseling facilities, that was
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah, that's it.
But we're approving that, it says proposed program plan. Right, so that's the program. The color- No, the color grid you have right there.
Yeah.
That's what we're approving.
Right, but if we don't approve the job description to the school health coordinator, we
That will go
can't
with it.
include that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like,
Yeah.
that's really on material, because that's really what the program plan is.
Well, this was in our
This is what we
materials.
would-
I know what I'm saying, but you're saying.
You don't approve this, you only approve, this is what you approve right here, the money amount.
See, that's it, that's different, because I think we're also supposed to put out money.
I understand what you're saying, John, it's actually really not different, because the only thing that doesn't match up to this previous grid that we discussed is in the bucket for ESSER 3, for the 4 million bucket, it's got the HVAC projects, it's got the ESS clinicians, and then it talks about school health coordinator. Out of those 3 in that bucket, if we don't approve school health coordinator, this falls off the
Well,
table.
we are approved, that's what we're approved.
You approve the full amount, because then what we do is we apply the full amount, and that'll probably pay for more of either ESS charges or more towards the
Right.
HVAC.
The money for the health coordinator will go
Right.
elsewhere.
Right.
Right, that's what I want to make clear.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know there was some concern about applying and accepting the funds. This resolution will apply for and it would be approval to accept the funds.
So I'd like to just make a statement or during discussion. I will vote no on this, and again, I will vote no because I have not gotten clarity on why we didn't apply for the unencumbered funds that were offered by the state. We didn't make that application, and this money is encumbered by questionable ties or strings from the federal government as to masking, vaccinations, testing, and continued COVID protocols. So I will vote no on this, and that's one to say I don't trust or believe or have got a clear answer on what our obligations are regarding this money.
Any other discussion?
Let me can I just answer that? You feel like we didn't get clarity. And what our obligations are is to follow our plan. We have a plan. If there's further laws that change, our plan will change, or at least our, it depends. If masking is no longer a law, we can change our plan. That doesn't include masking. If they enact other laws, we are going to have to follow them. So it's not that, like right now, the teacher testing, something that we have to follow. It isn't even in our plan, but we do have to follow it.
I understand,
So
correct.
it's going to, getting this money is not going to impact what we have to follow. We're going to have to follow what's the law, and if it's not the law, then we can follow our plan.
Okay, but then why do we have to submit a plan? Why are those conditions on the application? I mean, this to me is like a very unique situation that we've seen over and over again, where maybe a law can't be passed, maybe the law is unconstitutional. However, the administration will incentivize schools or hospitals or other entities or private companies to institute those policies that they want to push through. So I don't feel confident at all the fact that we're all hoping to off-ramp all of these policies, and this money specifically speaks to universal correct masking, testing in schools, vaccinations, etc. So I don't feel comfortable accepting this money with the string attached to it. That's my feeling, and I have looked at this, I've researched it, I've talked to most people here about it. It's very concerning to me, and again, it also ties back to we didn't even apply for the unencumbered money. So that it just bothered me. We didn't apply for that, but this we're all willing to write a policy and go through with the plan, and then the plan also needs to be amended every 6 months. So I'm just confused that that's what their stipulations are. Every 6 months we have to.
And we have
to review it.
We have to review
With the community and
with the
board.
community. Yes, that's required.
If laws come out of the federal government that we don't agree with later on, should we return the funds? If we're going to, well, I mean, it's only a small portion of our budget, so.
Because once the state mandates come off, we still talk to the laws of the federal government, what the question really is, and we never had clarity.
Well, you have a good point. This is a federal grant. Now, the 4 million plus, that comes directly from the federal government. The other 4 sub-grants was money that was given to the state by the federal government, and they were allowed to determine the uses, and that's what they did, like some is for accelerated learning for performing after school, some is for summer learning. So that's what the state did. They are allowed. They created these sub-grants. Whether, how, I'm really not sure about giving money back. That's something maybe others can weigh in. I'm not sure.
That depends on the terms of the grant. I don't know the answer.
Well, we only get reimbursed, so it's only reimbursement for what you spend. So if you don't spend it, you don't spend it. You either have to carry it over or it gets taken away. That's how most grants work.
Yeah, but we're going to obviously spend it.
Right. And the other thing I just want to add.
Well, it's a 3-year grant, period. So you're not going to spend it all on year 1. So to your point, when you said if something comes down the road a couple months from now, and we don't agree with it, well, whatever the unspent funds are at that point, the board doesn't want to aim to submit for reimbursement, that's what would happen, and then whatever was planned wouldn't take place.
And anything significant would have to be separately awarded by the board anyway. Any significant contracts that would be used to spend this money would have to be listed on the agenda separately before they were.
Correct. I would just encourage the board to improve this. This is really valuable. SEL programs, learning acceleration programs, for our students.
And just to your point, my other feeling of being uncomfortable with this money is that this is literally tied to COVID, correct? So it's supposed to be kind of reparations for what has happened during COVID, and the bulk of the money is going to HVAC and Nutswam, and that to me is like, I brought up last time about the 45,000 or the lack of mental health services. I think that we are not necessarily addressing.
We were putting a lot of elements into mental health services and social emotional learning. Really are a lot of money going into that.
I will agree with you that we are highly more invested than we were, but I still don't see a general, I think that this COVID has affected every child, and I don't see in here anything that's addressing mental health for every child I see. I see tiered interventions for what is very far.
It's our restorative practices. It's our like morning meetings, like I always forget the name. Responsive classroom. Like those are programs that touch every single child. And then there are counseling services, there's, you know.
We don't have enough counseling services, there's a wait list, and
Well,
there's no kids who are getting services right now.
we actually, you know, we have the capacity for counseling. We just don't have the staff, they're,
That's the ESS.
ESS and also the Y doing our counseling, they are trying to get staff. Staffing is an issue across the country in every industry.
Right, but Kim, is the ESS, like my feeling on ESS, which I love, I think the program is fantastic, but my feeling is that it's almost like you have to have already had a problem with school to access that. It's not necessarily just addressing generalized anxiety that's happening with all of our kids, or depression, or any of the issues that we're starting to see.
I would say from a building administrator standpoint, the benefit of ESS, that's why, Michelle and Pat and Mary Ellen and Matt and I had this strong, long conversation about it, is in that tier 1 component. Because when you're alone in a building as a principal and you're dealing with an IRS referral from a student, from a teacher about a student or from a parent, you almost feel alone because you need someone to come in and maybe, do an analysis of what's happening in the classroom, give you strategies.
What triggers it? Is it behavioral?
It could be,
That's
could be behavioral, it could be emotional. And then sometimes where they struggle in the IRS committee is getting to the root cause of that and then coming up with a plan to address it in a healthy way and getting the parents involved. So that tier 1 component is that is a whole classroom approach. The tier 1 component it is for every child who is identified in need.
It's also and that's when we're elementary.
No, that would be all grade
Entire
level.
district.
I thought
Yeah.
ESS was.
It's for the teacher to address the issue in real time in the classroom. That's what the IRS committee, convenes for, and having those consultants readily available is key,
But I thought ESS is clinicians for tier 2 and return to class.
But it's also tier 1. split up.
It's both.
Under the larger pot of money is the ESS for the direct student services. And under the learning acceleration is the money that provides coaching to the teachers, as well as after we met last time and we took everyone's feedback, we added a tier 1 piece, which is professional development, which comes in a couple different forms of teacher workshops, virtual sessions, and teacher self-care, which is more of like a preventative measure to kind of compare, to kind of see, that when they're about to, students coming in with some concerns, like they'll be prepared to handle that a little bit better through this professional development. So it's now tier 1 and tier 2 being provided.
Again, I love the program, I think it's great, but I will say again, and I appreciate, I think the teachers need the professional development, I think they need the teacher self-care component, but I still don't see any money that is affecting the kids directly very quickly. So that's been my feelings at the beginning about mental health services, so.
I have a question. Just want to know, this money, by taking this money,
Can you talk again? Because I'm having trouble here.
by taking this money, and you tell us that we're not going to be using stuff for, like, I know you don't know if they're gonna be using stuff. They do. Once we touch this money, it's obligated.
That's in terms of the grant.
If they mandate it, we're obligated whether to take this money or not, it's a mandate. Mandates are.
This is my point, her question is basically if the state has no more mandates, but the federal governments have a
Right.
mandate tied to this.
Tied to
this grant fund.
Everybody. Yeah, this is their policies.
I can't say that, I don't know what the federal.
So then my
government
next question to Bruce would be is, if that came down and that was the issue at that point, we can stop utilizing the money, we have to pay back the money.
I don't know.
That's likely, I don't know, I haven't seen the grant application.
Has any of this?
I have not seen anything in writing.
I've never heard of anything like that. I don't know how they could.
Reject the deal.
Now, reject the fact, like if it says, this is the requirements of the grant, so how can they, a year from now, say, oh, you got that grant, so now you have to do this? I've never heard of grant.
I understand what, I understand what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying.
The
Only thing
concern,
I've seen-
I mean, cut to the concern is that the initial discussion of the grant said universal masking or proper masking,
Universal
whatever
and
it said.
correct masking.
Yeah, so is that, so let's say the state says we don't have to do that anymore. I think what they're really asking is, well, we still have to do that because we took this money.
Right.
I mean, is that the real question?
Well, yes, exactly. And the other problem I have is that they only gave us $4 million, and a city like Newark, it just Newark got 176. So, I don't want to, I feel like I'm not gonna sell our kids for $4 million to continue down this road if this is where it's going.
First of all, $4 million $4 million does do a lot of good for our students, but the $4 million pot is the pot from the federal government, and the 80% of that is going to HVAC, which is not gonna be done like right away. It takes time to get that.
HVAC really has nothing to do with COVID, that needs to be done anyway, and that is like, this is supposed to be COVID money, so HVAC is really has to be figured out.
That
as
is,
a town
that is
improvement.
specifically listed as
Right.
allowable.
I understand it's allowable, but I don't think that it's a direct result of
Well,
everything
it
having
does
to move it.
improve, it does improve air quality, which is tied back to COVID. That's
It's one school though, it's a lot of money into one school.
Is this really only going to one school?
No, we
I thought it was going
have
to
not
all the
specified what project will be done. We're putting in to do projects, but we have not specified where the project will be at. We're continuing to evaluate where the greatest needs are.
State on several reports, I think it was 30 million.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, no, definitely, no doubt. but-
So that the HVAC that we need is $39.
But it would be a start.
This committee was all F1.
We already have a motion.
We already have a motion.
And I will second.
Yeah, we go back to discussion.
Yeah, we're into discussion. Anybody else?
Sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, abstentions, so.
We do a roll.
Could we just clarify, is this just F1 or F1?
It's just that one.
Just F1.
Just that one.
I'm sorry, one other quick question to clarify. You're saying that the ARP is the first one and then the 4 others are state grants, can we separate those out?
That's right, it's.
So let's separate them, let's take one on each one, we're blind plus 2.
The fund.
They're all flowed through ARP.
Oh, so they're not separate, they're not federal versus state.
Well, it all goes through the state. Now,
The
all
state-
the words that we apply to the state.
For all.
So you're saying the federal government gave the money to the state for us to apply?
There's a portion of it. Some is direct. The state acts as the flow through. I mean, Amy, you're the accountant. Come with better terminology than I do. I'm only a educator. But the state serves as the person who gets the direct money. They're the middleman, right? But what happened was when the ARP was passed by the federal government, there was a pool of money that each state received separate from the direct money to the districts. The 4 million and change was a number that was determined off of a larger pool of money based on your Title I allowances, right? So that was the direct amount that was afforded out to Middletown based upon our Title I population, right? Economically disadvantaged population. The sub-grants were determined based off of a separate pool of money in the ARP grant that each state received and was given the authority as a state on what they were going to do with it. In New Jersey, they decided to augment the ESSER sub-grant that each district automatically received and give us these sub-grant allocations. So it's still all part of the ARP grant program.
So that's a good as well.
My opinion, I don't think you can separate it.
No.
We're working on the grant, that's no problem, so we know what we're eligible or not eligible, can return, can't return. Our kids are being held liable basically to the federal government, not the state government anymore, that's the problem issue with this right now. And the other factor is $4 million, like Jackie brought out, it should be about $40 million.
I can't speak to, I can only speak to how they explained to us how our allocation was determined. Again, they said it was based upon our Title I population, right? Compared to the other districts who, if they got more, then I can only assume that they have a higher Title I population. I can, as to the usage and what future mandates may be upon us, the fact that this money was apportioned out to every state and not every state has a mask mandate, and yet they're adopting the money and the districts are using it, I would say that it's your prevailing state's requirement or your county or your school board. Some school boards have adopted, in certain states have adopted mask policies when it's not going to be required by their governor. So I would say it's the board's masking policy that's in our state return plan. Right now, we are under a governor's executive order. So we're mandated, to Mary Ellen's point, whether it's a
State mandate.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So right now, if the state mandate gets extended, let's just say, we're gonna have to do that whether we accept this fund or not. Right? I would think the good faith here is that what was stipulated when this was first released back in July, which was that we had to have universal mask wearing. Again, I would think it's tied to what either your board policy is, your state mandate, that's requiring that. Then we had to make known and available to parents vaccine. So we've done that. It's on our website. We've educated parents. You had to educate them about vaccine. And then you had to have the plan in and of itself advertised, and you have to review it every 6 months with community input and stakeholder input in case you want to make any changes to it. Those were the requirements at the time it was advertised. I'm trying to think if there was any other
So I
requirements.
have it in front of me, so just for everyone's clarity, what they've done is they've broken it up into different sections. So the first one is universal and correct wearing of masks, and then we were allowed to answer how we were going to interpret that. Second one is physical distancing. Third one is hand washing, respiratory etiquette. Fourth one is cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities. Fifth one is contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine. The sixth one is diagnostic and screening testing. Seventh one is efforts to provide vaccinations to educators, other staff, and students if eligible. And the last one is appropriate accommodations for children with disabilities, which is with respect to health and safety policies.
Right, and that's the subsections of our safe return plan. So right now, most of those sections are, the way our plan is written, it's based on an executive order. For example, the masking, the contact tracing, being part of the contact tracing being linked to the NJDOE, which is right now, requirement for us. So the way our plan is written, if those things were to be removed, then they would be removed from the plan.
So we don't know that if we resubmit in 6 months and we say, sorry, you signed the application, you guys signed this, you knew our terms. It's a very.
We don't know what your return on
Do you mean if the federal government came down with the change?
I can't say that.
The federal,
Yeah,
this is the criteria for tax money. So again, I would bring back again, I still have not gotten an answer. Why we did not apply for the unencumbered state stabilization money. We did not apply for that. What's that? Can
you respond to that about the other grant, stabilization grant?
Well, it wasn't a grant. It
Was just aid, it wasn't,
additional aid, and as we had discussed, the criteria that was set forth for the application was that it wasn't just predicated on a reduction in state aid, it was if your district was facing a structural budgetary imbalance. And then they went on to list other criteria and things that would be considered before you would be considered for those funds. And it included things such as if you had received unanticipated extraordinary aid, for example, which we did. We received over $1 million in extraordinary aid for this year than what we had budgeted. It was also saying that they would want you to use your reserves. We do have money in reserves that we could use before we would require additional state aid. So they were going through these criteria points to see if you could prove that you had a budgetary imbalance, that you would have large reductions in staff, things of that nature. And we did not meet those bullet points, or we had other funds to use. Fund balance was another thing. So the other funds to use before we would even be considered for any additional aid. And then other criteria that they use to look at districts to see whether you would be receiving more funding is, as we talked about in budget presentations, whether you're over or under adequacy. So that's, based upon your spending and so forth. And when the state calculates over or under adequacy for a thorough and efficient education, they go through their formula, and we find out, we know what that is every year. It comes with our state notice and our budget. And at this point in time, we are $11 million over what the state is saying is what should be our adequacy budget. If you look at districts who receive the additional aid, they are all what is categorized as under adequacy. For example, a district like Greenville Regional, they were like $4 to $5 million under adequacy. So basically what the state is saying is their budget should be $4 to $5 million higher to meet the threshold of what would be considered, adequacy spending. So all of those factors put together did not support us being considered for additional state aid this year. There are 18 districts across the state that even put in an application. There are well over 100 that have lost state aid. And out of those 18, 16 were approved for some form of aid. And it wasn't the entire amount that they put in for. I use people regional other numbers. They put in for 4.8 million. I think they ended up with 1.2. And again, they based their application amount on the amount that they were under adequacy. That was the 4.8 was what they were under adequacy. So that's what they put in for.
And I understand that, and we've talked about this. I just would have liked to hear that answer from the state government saying this is why you didn't get it, instead of us deciding we weren't going to apply at all, just take our chances. Because again, we don't really know. You don't know who's going to apply, what the division of stuff is going to be, and we just didn't even bother to apply. So that's really what I was trying to get at, not why we didn't get it. We didn't get it because we actually did not apply.
Well, we evaluated the criteria set.
But if you want to evaluate this criteria, I'm not for this criteria at all.
If we apply for this grant, right, if I'm spend it, is there any way we could accept the grant and wait? Or in other words, if we have a deadline this week, is there a way, I'm just trying to see if there's some sort of middle ground here where we can say, okay, let's apply for it. If we find out later that I think apply for it, this is some sort of mandatory vaccinations for students. Is that my kind of one of concern?
Right. If that comes up.
Right, I mean, that would be something probably, if that would happen, which I don't know, right? It would be probably the next 6 months.
I've just never seen a grant agreement amended in
I
fashion.
don't know, I'm just trying to figure out.
Have you ever applied for a grant that had this criteria and these kind of encumbrance? Ever? I haven't been here that long, but have you ever applied for any grant, federally or state, that had these kind of ties to it?
When we apply for grants, there's always stipulations on, how you can spend your money.
That's not what I'm asking, that's the different stipulation.
Maybe I didn't sure what I was going to say. And they also, tell you the parameters for spending, and then also, you have to offer certain programs, do certain things, provide certain outreach to parents. There's been other grants that we've had that have had those types of stipulations.
To John's question,
Does the federal government?
it's a 3-year grant period, John, so we don't have to second, but we would have to put it in the grant application.
Most of the stuff grants would not be spent right away, it would be over learning.
It would be ESS. Facilities stuff right away.
Which is some grants that could be for a year or two down the road.
Right, but also the HVAC,
That's down the road.
We're talking about the $1 million or so.
Exactly, yes, exactly.
I mean, are we willing to sort of roll the dice or not?
But we don't know if we get that back, that's what we're trying to do.
I know, I understand what your point is. I'm just trying to wonder if we're willing to take the risk or reward. And my question would be, is the state of New Jersey really at its current condition really going to go against what the federal government asks? It doesn't have the authority. And secondly, is the federal government really, we think that for school districts, that's generally, other than certain certain, there's obviously certain laws, right, that are on that, it's the state government's territory. Is that true? I'm asking the administration.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way to kind of fit it, that's all I'm trying to figure out.
This is what, maybe I'm not understanding it right, but the way I'm understanding is that we apply for it, we don't get that money.
No,
until
right,
we
it's a
submit
reimbursement.
for it.
Right.
So if we apply for it and we get it, and we decide, we'll know soon if these mandates are coming down, but we don't have to use that money.
Or as I forget who
With
said
the
it.
stipulation, because I don't want to tie money to stipulations for our kids either, but I have an issue not taking the money, because if the mandates don't come, we could be benefiting our
Well,
students a
what I was
lot.
just gonna add is the deadline
But-
to submit for this grant is Wednesday. If you do not submit an application by this Wednesday, you are not eligible for the funds, no matter what the circumstances.
But going back to my point is that if we apply for it, it doesn't mean we have to use it.
Right, but well, Frank is saying certain aspects of it, then we sooner than later.
Yeah.
$4,041,675 will probably not be used right away, especially for 2016, that we're using that for. The learning, coaching, all that stuff, will be probably utilized.
Within the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We found $2.5 million savings that this is 4 million, there have got to be other grant opportunities.
Oh, I agree, there's gotta be other grants.
There's gotta be, we have a lobbyist, the lobbyist had advised us to apply for that last grant, we ignored the lobbyist and did not apply. So lobbyists.
It wasn't
lobbyists
this one,
applied
wasn't
for
a
other
grant,
grants.
and I don't.
So whatever lobby states their position, we did not do an application.
Email saying that,
Yes, we have an email from
you
the
can
lobby.
email saying that this is something that's available, that's all it said.
She advised that we apply for it.
May
No,
28th.
Not to me.
Yes, she did.
May
We're all in the
28th, we had email sent to the entire board, that the board that said that this was coming up and we should keep it on the radar. I believe the opening day was August 25th, the closing date was October 1st.
Right.
And we did not.
And nobody even talked about it, it never came back to the
Never came
meeting,
up.
never got.
That is not accurate. We did bring that up in finance and facilities meetings on the agenda and we discussed
When
it.
did you bring that up?
Excuse me?
We brought it up in the finance facility meeting.
In the finance and facilities meeting, this was discussed.
Joan, did you hear anything
No,
about
I
that?
didn't.
Mr. Heflin, did you hear anything about that?
No.
Leonora?
No.
I never heard about that ever in the finance facility meeting. Is it in minutes?
Yes, it is.
It is where? What date?
September, whatever day it was.
September stabilization dates in minutes.
Yes, finance committee decided not to apply.
No, on the finance
Never told. Never told.
Would the finance committee even have that authority?
No, we don't know that. No. Yeah.
May 28th, we were told about the lobbyists and we never followed up with this.
That's not true. We did follow up and
We
Amy
don't
just
know if we're gonna
explained
get-
why
we don't
it was
apply.
not applied.
Don't apply, we have no shot at it. Especially in an election year where money's thrown out all over the place, who knows?
All right, I guess we need to call this question. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
This is on everyone?
F1,
So you already did do a vote in line.
Yeah. because we didn't get it.
Mrs. Caminiti. No. Mr. Don.
Yes.
Mr. Jima.
Yes.
Mr. Heffernan.
No.
Mr. Little.
Yes.
Mrs. Tobacco. No. Mrs. Wright.
Yes.
Mr. Capone.
No.
Mrs. Minnie.
Yes.
We have 5 yeses and 4 nos.
I'm just telling you right now, going for the record, if there are any stipulations to this, I don't think we should spend this money.
I don't trust, I think just we should say, just.
But Jackie, we don't know, I respect everybody's opinions, and I do, and it's torn between saying yes and no, but this money is not in our pockets, and it won't be in our pockets unless we spend it. And that's the only faith that I can have, is that they're not gonna mandate things on our kids. Because I hope we would stand up and say that, which we are standing up like that.
We just took money to agree to all of this, just so everyone's, okay, we just took money to agree to all these stipulations.
Okay. All right, now we need a motion for number 2 and 3.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. We're going to do personnel. Number 1 through 4. Student activities. Oh, student activities, sorry. All right, student activities. Approval of the suspension report. 1.
So moved. On page 7.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah, I don't have any.
I have page 7, but I don't have that. Yeah.
This one.
You want one? Yeah, I see that is. Okay, we need a second. I need a second. All in favor? Right, second.
Joe.
Okay. For the suspension portion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions. On personnel, I need a motion for number 1 through 7. 1 through 7.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. I need a motion for number 8 through 13.
So moved.
Discussion? Or do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? I'm just going to go on the record that I'm voting no for number 11, and I think everybody should know why. I don't believe we should be paying somebody $500 a day to do half of someone's position that we're filling it for.
I'm voting no.
Yeah.
I'm no.
Okay, so, any other comments before we vote?
Let's.
Yeah, we're going to keep it. Yeah, I'm confused with you right now. He's only being approved for the Director of Social Studies, and the position that he's filling is Director of Social Studies
Oh, that was.
and Technology. No, it wasn't an error. We talked about it last week, and that's exactly what we were told, just Social Studies. So
Right.
we have a first, we have a second.
John, I just want to say I apologize for that. I didn't even notice that. That wasn't my intention. That was Karen's week.
That's how it was explained to us, and that's how I feel. I'm not paying someone $500 a day to do that. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti,
No.
Mr. Donlin,
No. Could we just clarify, you're voting on 8 through 13?
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah.
So if you want to say, for example, vote no on 11, say yes,
Right,
except no on 11.
Can we amend 11?
Let's amend
No.
it, let's amend it. She is corrected the misinterpretation.
That's okay, I'm still voting no.
That's fine, but she is
Because
corrected.
this is wrong, the way this was explained to us, and there's a lot of lack of communication going on with this board. We're not being told anything.
Sure.
So
Well, you cannot say that, Joe.
yes, Mary Ellen.
Every Sunday for the
Mary- but Mary Ellen.
A tremendous amount of information.
When did you discuss this position with us? You didn't.
Well, yes, we did it last week.
It was negotiated and discussed before it even came to the board. We had no idea, and then it was told to us one that it's gonna be for one thing. I'm not doing
I don't think
that.
it was negotiated, but we told you, we found out.
Guys, we have a motion and second on the floor. If somebody wants to amend the motion, you can make a motion and second that and then vote on the amendment, but there's been a motion and second, it's really time to vote.
Yeah, let's clarify what we asked to do, okay?
You're being asked to vote on resolutions 8 through 13. That's the motion on the table right now.
8 through 13.
Yes.
8 through 13.
So moved.
we had a motion.
We had that.
Roll
Roll call.
Okay. Mrs. Caminiti,
Yes to all except for number 11, I'm voting no.
Mr. Donlin,
call. Yes.
Mr. Dimer,
Yes.
Mr. Heffernan,
Yes. from 8 to 13 with the exception of 11.
Mr. Little,
Yes, but no,
Mrs. Tobacco,
Yes, on all.
Mrs. Wright,
Yes, but no on 11.
Mr. Capone,
Yes to all except for one.
Mrs. Denise.
Yes, all except for 11.
So all we have 5 votes for all except number 11. So
Now we need a motion for number 14 through 18. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? I'm opposed on number 18.
Yeah, I'm not for number 18, yes on the rest.
As well, yes, of course.
But it's all no. Is there something wrong with the job description?
I don't think that's where we should, my personal opinion, I'm voting no because I said it at our workshop meeting and meetings prior. I don't believe that that's where we should be spending this money. I want to see it spent more directly on something that's going to benefit our students.
Mrs. Denise, Mrs. Kennedy, Mr. Capone, Mr. Bethany, and Mrs. Tobacco.
But I guess if we're disapproving the job description, do we want the job description changed, or we just don't want it?
I don't think, like I said before, and I explained at the workshop and other meetings with this, I don't think that this is the position that we should be spending that money on. I think we should be spending that money on something that's going to more benefit our kids. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's my personal opinion.
So my question is, if we're disapproving the job description, are we asking for a new job description? Or we just asking for no job description?
I don't think we should be spending any of those funds on that job description.
is there a possibility of a stipend of some sort for the function? In other words, instead of a role, like, in other words, this is sort of assist, is there a stipend option we want to consider later?
I'd be happy to say that.
We spoke about this prior.
What's that?
We spoke about this prior, actually.
Oh,
We can refer it to the personnel committee because we already voted for it, so. Or voted against it, so we could go back and have a discussion about personnel. All right, let's see, personnel, is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, public comment.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
it was so great to actually be back in school to see the beautiful performance of Midsummer Night's Dream last week at High School North. And I got to go opening night, Thursday night, I took my son, and he absolutely loved it. I actually wasn't sure how well my 10-year-old would sit through Shakespeare.
It
But
was comical.
he was laughing, he got so excited and thought the students were amazing and how they were able to memorize all those lines and just really make it a great performance. So job well done, congratulations.
Yes. And they really trooped through the mask wearing. I wish they didn't have to do that, but they got through it, but they shouldn't have had to do that. Okay, public comment, 30 minutes. Just step up to the mic, you have 3 minutes, put your name and go ahead.
Oh, it's dead.
Uh-oh.
100%. No, right back.
Okay, yeah.
I'll wait.
You can talk loud, we can all hear you. Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Ryan Erwin from the Monmouth section of Middletown. I got so first question, Miss Walker.
a couple months ago, I asked for clarification on the indoor mask mandate when it comes to winter sports at the hockey arena. You said that it's required there. Now, my question is, I need a little clarification on that. Is that, does the hockey arena, the Middletown Ice Hockey Rink, if we all know, currently has a mask mandate in place, or is just the school is going to enforce it when there's a school event there? And my concern is to that, if that's the case, then how is that going to affect other people there, like for practices and other stuff? Like, because we had some conflicts with that at the bag policy issue, because we had some parents come in and be like, oh, you can't bring a bag in because there's a school event going on. Well, the parents are like, I want to see my son practice, something like that, but I just needed clarification on that. Then my second thing is that, as you've made them aware by now, there has been a major scandal with Wall Township for hazing. I just wanted to make sure that the board knows that we can't make the same mistakes as Wall Township, and I hope that we don't have a hazing scandal someday in this township. But if we do, I hope the board and the administration will handle it much better than Wall Township, and I hope we don't have to force anyone to resign. But never know. And my last concern is that the vaccine mandate, there is fears out there that students are concerned about the vaccine mandate going to be enforced to children if Phil Murphy decides, well, they always should do that. Is there concerns to like any kind of like walkout or protest to that, or should we just, I don't know what else to say, but yeah. So have a good Thanksgiving. I'll be at the Thanksgiving game Thursday, and I'll probably be there early. I don't know, however, the best luck to both teams, and you have a good week.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Thank you, John Drucker, 82 West Wilson Circle, Middletown, New Jersey. A lifelong resident, attended Middletown School, so I'd like to approach the board. One of the things that's interesting is we have this public meeting, and it's really great democracy in action. The only problem is that if you go to various official websites, for example, we have the agenda website that says the meeting's at High School North, 63 Tyndall Road at 8 o'clock. Then if you go to the calendar says that the public meeting starts at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, we have the agenda, which is the official document. Here it is right here. And I'll turn these all over to you. And of course, this one is the correct one. And it says that the public library community group, where we are, at 8 o'clock. So what I would ask the board of the district is if there's a way that they can coordinate all of this. Because if anybody pays attention to Facebook, there's about 1,000 comments on where's the meeting, what time does it start, et cetera, et cetera. So I would really ask and implore the board of the district, and I'll turn this over to you if it's okay. Officer on the end of speed, so you have all of this information, where I got it, I highlighted all the websites, and clean this up, because it's really important that people attend and they know what's going on in the district, they know what's going on with their children. And the only way they're going to do that is to know where the meeting is. So that's my first item.
And I apologize, and I will make sure that that's correct. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
There
you.
you go. You're very welcome. Working? Okay. The second item is about the virtual format. And I follow along, kind of listen to what people say, and I can't hear it, video, things like microphones, et cetera, et cetera. Does the school system still have any kind of production program for media from the students? You do?
Yes.
Okay, because I attended it when I went. It was really great. We learned a lot. And perhaps the board, the district, the superintendent would consider engaging those 5 students and saying, how would you like to produce this in such a way to have multiple camera angles and audio and so forth and so on. So that's the other thing I would bring to the board's attention, because there are a lot of people, for various reasons, who respect their rights, that say, hey, I want to follow along. And I want to do it from home or wherever they can't attend with their phone, work, wherever. So I would implore the board to perhaps engage the students and say, hey, here's a great opportunity for you to produce this, to learn about how the board works, how democracy works, how the public works in the meeting in general. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi, my name is Dwight Fleming, I live at 41 Marshall Street in New York. And I'm here as a special education advocate, so that you know that. I have met with the Middletown Township Friends of Diverse Learning only one time. I'm kind of returning to education to be an advocate, hopefully for not only one case that I'll bring to your attention, but others. And I can be of assistance to parents simply because I've had a very long career in education. And it really deals with communication. There was a student brought to my attention who was put out of school rightfully, an 8-year-old, and had to be looked at in the emergency room by a directive of a child study team member in Middletown Township, and get the results on a fit to return. It's a policy you have been following for years. And then the father of that student got a bill for $600, for that visit after being directed to go there. And then put in for reimbursement for that payment, and received a response from one of your attorneys, I guess it's Jared Shore, that he was unaware of any statute or regulation obligating the school district to reimburse a parent for such uncovered health expenses under such circumstances. And the circumstance was that the parent was directed to take the child there. Well, then, as it turns out, in your regulations that are attached to policy 8468, it says, and you go to number 4, and the policy is long there, the regulation's long. But if you go to number 4, there is a piece of the paragraph that talks about who will pay and whatnot. And it says the school district will assume the cost of evaluation as long as the parents or legal guardians uses the providers selected by the school district. So while there may not be a statute that says you're obligated, there's also not a statute that says you can't pay. And you have a policy regulation that says pay. And hopefully that'll get straightened out. It's already being dealt with through council, so that you're aware of that also. So let me sure you're fully aware of what's going on. And quite frankly, I think parent ought to be reimbursed for council expenses as well, because you shouldn't have to go through that when it's part of your policy. In any event, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Greenos, and I have a few things that I wanted to discuss tonight. First, thank you for the opportunity to be in person and discuss what we need to discuss for my children and our teachers. The first thing I want to discuss is in the legislation in which the religion policy for a district is written, it states 2 things, and I quote, as a condition to receiving the SBA funds, there must be no policy that prevents or otherwise denies participation in constitutionally protected prayer in public schools as detailed in this updated guidance, end quote. And I think our policy goes along with this, except that I still would like the board to look at those last 2 paragraphs and think about how that needs to stay in the policy. In the same legislation, it states, and I quote, teachers and students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gates, end quote. So my question is, if this is written in this legislation, why in other legislation are teachers and students asked to shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gates, such as with masking mandates, testing mandates, and vaccination mandates? I ask the board to look closely once again at these other legislations that are forcing and taking away the rights of our children and our teachers and us as parents. I want to know why we are still masking our children when the Afghanistan children on a military base in New Jersey are not wearing masks in their school. My educated guess is that they're learning English, and it's impossible to learn a language with semantics or motor movements involved and speaking that language when you're wearing a mask or listening to a teacher in a mask. Middletown School District was going to get sued if you passed a policy that gave parents the option of sending their child to school without a mask. That's what we were told this summer. Murphy was in that classroom with all those children unmasked. And he was not suing anyone, he was singing a song with them. So why is that acceptable? Why are we allowing him to dictate what is happening when he's not following his own rules? Lastly, there's been a lot of talk about the health curriculum since last week. I would like to know if board members have seen the material that is directly taught related to this curriculum. If not, there should be a workshop where the board and parents, in true transparency, can learn what material the teachers will be using. The policy as it's stated doesn't look so bad. The 66-page legislation policy looks, in my opinion, not appropriate to be taught in school. And I'm just curious about who, if anybody here has actually seen the material that's tied to, material that's used in the classroom tied to these standards. So in my defense and transparency of not knowing what material is used, I want to know in what respect anal sex is going to be mentioned to a 5th grader. I want to know how gender identity is being taught to a 2nd grader. Why is one of the standards to discuss the range of ways people express their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior? I want to know what that looks like in the classroom. What are we telling our kids? What are we sharing with them? What are our trusted kids listening to their teachers who trust them and learning about the subject? I want to know as a parent before that teacher speaks. I want to know why and how one of the standards which says, in quotes, explain common human sexual development and the role of hormones, including romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, and timing of puberty onset, end quotes. What makes the teacher qualified to talk about sexual feelings? They are not trained in mental health capacity, or are they? What training have these teachers received to be able to talk about sexual feelings to grade school teachers, to any child, unless they're trained in that capacity? I want to know why one of the standards is to describe, in quotes, pregnancy options including parenting, abortion, and adoption. Abortion is not a pregnancy option. It is a decision and a choice that one makes, as is adoption. And these are only a few standards that I find disturbing. I ask the board to look at each standard and decide which is appropriate to be teaching. Parents should know the material being taught that correlates with these standards. And again, receive a workshop either here at a board meeting or individually at the school level.
I have to ask you to clear out because you're well over 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So, and the last thing that I argue is that I know there's an opt-out option for these things. I argue that there should be an opt-in instead of an opt-out. Give the parents and guardians the curriculum prior to the course. Let them discuss it, let them figure out this is appropriate for the child and opt into it instead of opting out of it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me speak.
I'm Jennifer Schultz from South Lake Drive, and I too am concerned about the new health curriculum mandates. This summer, I wanted to get a copy of the health curriculum for my child's grade level. It took several weeks for me to obtain a copy of the document. The procedure is right now for parents to obtain a copy of curriculum in any subject is to request it from the BOE. The BOE charges 10 cents a page for copies. The parent is told what the fee will be and asked to either come to the BOE during working hours, which is not realistic for working parents, with cash or a check. Or to mail a check to the BOE in snail mail. The fee for the health curriculum was $2.75. I wrote a check and mailed it and waited for the UPS to deliver it, and then waited again for copies to be mailed to me. The administrative person at the BOE was very efficient and responsive. However, I'm wondering why in 2021, the Middletown School District is asking for personal checks and the U.S. Postal Service to transmit information to parents. Parents have a right to see curriculum on any subject and should not have to have a back and forth with an administrator and wait for it to arrive in the mail. And I'm wondering why are parents being asked by the Middletown School District to jump through hoops to see curriculum? When everything else has moved into the 21st century, our schools have text alerts, Zoom classes, Google Classrooms. Why are we still using personal checks and snail mail? Can we use email for curriculum? My request to BOE and the superintendent is to use the technology that is available to us in 2021. Otherwise, parents are jumping through hoops to be involved in their child's education. At very least, if curriculum cannot be emailed, I'd like to suggest the BOE get a Venmo account rather than asking me to send or drop off a check for $2.75. I'm sure it worked great in the 1970s, but it is 2021. Thank you. Thank you. We can't do it online.
Hi, Bureau of Safety, Ashar Drive, Middletown. I just really want to quickly just say we were thrilled to have Granny back on Saturday after having to cancel last year. It's the 40th year. It's an incredibly complicated undertaking, and we wanted to take a moment to publicly thank those that helped another successful show. First, thank you to the administration and district facilities team for responding to questions and supporting our team. Also, John McGuire, the security team, and the auxiliary police. John, thank you for meeting with us multiple times, being on site during setup, and coordinating with township officials. Who knew he could also help us fix the Wi-Fi? Great. Our in-house security team was amazing, and the auxiliary police kept a chaotic parking situation somewhat under control. The school community, including administrators, teachers, parents, office, and maintenance staff, that show up every year to help. Our maintenance staff are spectacular, and we're incredibly responsive to all of our requests over the 2 days of setup and the actual event on Saturday. I'm also amazed at parents that come back and help even though they don't have kids in Thompson. We really do have amazing community members. Also, we had well over 100 high school volunteers and 8th grade student volunteers that came to provide needed assistance to the vendors, and the vendors love their help and are always so complimentary. We were given parameters to work under this year that we've never encountered before, like electronic scanning of tickets. We're getting feedback from vendors in the community and already thinking of ways to improve next year's show. And the vendor application for next year has been released already, and we have already received dozens and dozens of applications. So the work has already begun for next year. So get ready for our next request.
More space.
I'm gonna go parking. I'm gonna go a little off script here, but I wanted to take 1 second to thank the primary organizers, Patrice and Kim, who don't even have children in Thompson, but refuse to let the show fail, and have used their complementary skills to consistently improve this this show year after year. And that their hard work is truly, truly appreciated. And it was nice seeing some of you there as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Vera.
Hello, my name is Shelley Wall. I live at 121 Davidson Ave. My son attends Bayshore. And I'm really nervous, and I wasn't going to come up here, but after one of the parents did, I wanted to just bring this up. So sorry if my voice shakes, but that's why I don't like down at the knees or talking. So back on August 25th, I did get the Bayshore curriculum for my 8th grade student. This is what it looks like. There's no details. I have no idea, but I can opt out if I'd like to. So I sent an email off to Devin Orozco, I think that's how you say your name. And I said I would like a detailed breakdown of each section that would be taught to my students. And then please provide the information before September 8th. And she got back to me a couple days later and said that she'd be happy to talk about the recently adopted health and physical education curriculum. And if I'd like an overview or review specific topics being discussed. And if I'd like a copy of the adopted curriculum, I can refer to Ms. Rizzuto, who can provide me with a paper copy at a charge for printing. I don't know if everybody can hear me, but I have trouble hearing when people are speaking up here. Then she said, in the meantime, I encourage you to look at the recently updated New Jersey Learning Standards in Health and Physical Education. I think that's the 66-page curriculum. And then it says there, our curriculum is aligned with state standards. We've adopted the newest version of comprehensive health skills for middle school as our textbook for next year, which is this book here. That's about $90 to $100 on Amazon. If I can buy that. And I said, thank you for your quick response. I can be reached on Friday morning. Why would I have to pay for a copy of the curriculum? Isn't it my right to know that information? Don't I pay taxes to pay for some copies? Technology in the 21st century allows for this curriculum to be emailed. I have the entire Healthcare Reform Affordable Care Act document of 2,000 pages on my computer. I think you can email it to me, and that way we are also not wasting paper. So that was it. I had nothing else to do. I couldn't look into it. My son was in health. I'm finding out about what's going on right now, and I'm just saying to all of you, parents don't come to these meetings. They don't know what's going on because we get this. We get this. That's all we get. The last thing is, and I'm sure my time is almost up, the road problem at the schools. This was my email in 2016 to Mary Ellen Walker, Mr. Altobello. My son has been absent from school 10 times since November. This is in 2016. He had a sinus infection in November, and he had pneumonia in December, Fitz disease in February, and now he's been out with another sinus infection. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but the very next day we had someone come out and find a bacterial mold growth in the air conditioning systems and the modulars at Navesink School. And as you all know, they got rid of those modulars. That seems like it was the solution to the problem. And I think if there is money for a new HVAC system, I think we need to put it in.
No one else at the mic. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and get a motion to adjourn.